Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. This is Courtney with the LSA, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our MarketingBitz webinar series. Today's webinar is 9 Tactics for Improving Your Ranking on Google in 2019, and will be brought to you by our guest presenter, Joe from Rithm Marketing. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to type them in the question box, and Joe can address them at the end of the presentation. The webinar will be recorded and available within 48 hours, and we will email everyone with a link. Next slide, please. I did want to let everyone know that we do have a MarketingBitz bootcamp coming up next year, January 16th in Washington, D.C. And with that, let's get started. Over to you, Joe.
All right, thanks, Courtney. Hello, everyone, and I just want to thank Local Search Association and MarketingBitz for allowing me to present this webinar. So today we're going to look at 9 tactics for improving your ranking on Google. We'll look at some other things before that. But my name is Joe, and I'm with Rithm Marketing. We're a new marketing agency that just got started in the Detroit area. You can learn more about our services and kind of see some of our work at rhythmmarketing.com. So what are we going to talk about today? Today we'll talk about the anatomy of a search result page. So when you type in a search, you're getting a list of results. How do those results look today? And then also, how did they look before? Because it's definitely changed over the years. And then we'll look at some of the ranking factors and how those have changed over the years as well. What was important now isn't so much. And then there's some things that remained important over the years. And then we'll look at the factors influencing ranking today. And then from there, we'll get into some of the tactics to improve rank based on these factors that are influencing the ranking. And this is all mostly focused on just Google for the context of this webinar. And then finally, we'll talk about what you can do yourself, when you should hire somebody, and kind of some of the in-betweens that come up when it comes to some of these tactics. So let's get started. When we look at the search results page from, I think this is about 10 years ago. So we look at the results, we see a list of blue links. I mean, this was the original kind of Google result page. And then fast forward to today, and it's very different. There's a lot of other kind of pieces in play here. You have some ads, you have this panel on the right with a bunch of images and different links. You have a map, you have reviews that are popping up right above the fold. And really, if you look at the search results today, you're not even seeing the organic results. Those are all below all of this stuff. So on the left side, this is what the organic result was, and that's all that there was. There was nothing else competing. So you were just trying to rank against that result page. Now you have all these different factors, and everything is kind of functioning in its own kind of special way. So the results pages have changed dramatically, and there's kind of a lot behind all of that, which we'll get into. So as I mentioned, Google's not just delivering a list of links. So when I talk about all these different pieces, here's kind of how you break down the different sections at the top. You have the ad section. We're all very familiar with that. On the right, this is a desktop search, by the way. And on the right side, you have this knowledge panel, which is, depending on your search, you might get this, you might not get it. So for instance, this is a search for roofers. So you see just general information about roofers. And then you have underneath that the local 3-pack, which is the local results based on a number of factors, which again, I'll get into some of that as we move forward, but this is just kind of some of the businesses nearby that are related to that search. And then again, at the bottom, you have the organic results. So there's not just a list of links, there's all kinds of different things that users can engage with. One of the more interesting developments over the last maybe a couple years is that Google is providing actual answers to whether it's a question or some certain searches. So as you can see here, the search, again, related to roofing, what is underlayment? And then you have this answer that pops up. It's the #1 answer for that search. People are calling it the featured snippet, position 0, whatever you want to call it. But basically, it's giving an answer to a very, usually it's a question that you're putting into Google. And there's tactics for ranking for that, but it's very competitive, and Google's using a lot of things that we don't fully know about. But this is changing the way consumers engage, again, with the search result. what it's doing is, when you type in a search and if it's a question and you get an answer, you're done. You have no reason to click. You have no reason to continue looking if you find that answer that you're looking for. So as a result, what's happening is you're getting an increase in no-click search results, especially on mobile. So like on mobile, if you think about it, you search for a nearby auto shop because you gotta something went wrong with your car, you got to take it in, and you got to take it in now. You're not necessarily going to go click through a bunch of links, go find who has the best reviews necessarily. You're going to maybe see some of the reviews in the search result, but you're not necessarily going to go click, and go on some long journey to find this because you need to fix now and you need to get moving. So what's happening is you're not going to click anything. You're going to click a call button right from Google. So the search results page is transforming how consumers engage with that page. Not needing to click onto another page, they're getting the information they need right away. So, and especially on mobile, and as you can see here, what it's saying is there's no click search results or searches, 62% on mobile, and that was in Q3 2018. That's a dramatic amount. That means even if you're ranking on the organic side, they're not even being clicked. There's still 38% clicks on mobile, and then on desktop it's swayed a little bit different. So on desktop people are clicking more. The no-click percentage is only around 35%. Nonetheless, it's a dramatic amount of people that aren't actually clicking onto a link away from Google. They're just staying on Google and getting the answer to their question or finding the business that they need to work with. This is a dramatic shift in how consumers search, and it's changing how really people should be approaching SEO. So, but we'll get into some of that stuff as well in some of the tactics. But this is a very important piece that, if there's nothing you take away from this webinar, remember that there's a shift taking place in how people engage with search results. And a lot of this is being driven by the way Google is presenting search results. So as I showed you before, you have ads at the top, you have the local pack, the 3-pack, the Knowledge Center. All of that is attracting a lot of engagement. So there's no need necessarily to go to the organic results or to even click away. So, it's a two-sided coin. People are enjoying the convenience and not having to click. At the same time, Google is keeping all that traffic, so they're kind of, keeping it all within Google so they don't have to drive people away from their site. But anyway, very interesting development in search. Now, what is Google saying is impacting the rank? They say 3 things: relevance, distance, and prominence. Problem is, they don't really explain what that means, leaving most people wondering, okay, now what? So, the distance, relevance, prominence, there's a whole bunch of stuff behind each one of those things that really Google's not going to say because this is their search algorithm. They're not going to express, hey, this is how we, rank the search results pages, because then their competitors can come and either copy or whatever, but they're not going to do that. So therefore, it's important for them to kind of protect that a little bit, but there's truth to what they're saying. It's not that they're, making it up. It's just, it's not clear what that stuff is. So as a result, a lot of SEO experts kind of came together to create the study, the local search ranking factor study. And it started in 2008, and it was, I think, originally a survey of maybe, I can't remember, 15 SEO experts, kind of giving their feedback and insight into what actual factors are, impacting rank, especially for local businesses. So anyway, this is a survey, or a survey of SEO experts that looks at the specific ranking factors. It was started in 2008. This most recent survey is over 30 local SEO experts. They review 137 potential ranking factors. So very detailed. And again, this is all based on the perception of SEO experts. Because Google doesn't share their ranking algorithm, where SEO and digital marketers are left to kind of speculate a little bit based on performance and things that they're seeing and developments that they're kind of seeing with their clients and their customers. And then they identify, based on these 137 factors, they identify the factors that influence the local rank. So when someone searches for a roofer, you're not getting, and you're in the Detroit area, you're not getting roofers for New York City. This is a very basic kind of thing that we kind of take for granted, but Google has kind of come to understand how important that is. and then how much these factors influence that rank. So let's take a look. So for the local pack, which that orange arrow is pointing to right there, those three listings, the things that are impacting the ranking there, number one is Google My Business. And that's accounting for, based on SEO, the opinions of SEO experts, about a quarter of the influence on your rank is your Google My Business signals. So number one, the number one ranking factor, very specific ranking factor of all those 137 is proximity. So how close are you to the person making the search? And if you're close, then you're going to have a better chance of ranking in that three pack. But there's a number of other signals from your Google My Business page that are influencing that as well. What are your categories of your business? What are the keywords in your business title, etc.? There's a whole list of different things, but your Google My Business kind of optimization is going to help with a quarter of the influence on your rank in that local three pack specifically. So this is not the organic results, just the local three pack. And then number two, you have link signals. So are there other sites that are reputable and authoritative, and are they linking back to your site? Because that's going to make, in Google's eyes, it's going to make your business look like it's more reputable itself. So if you're getting those links, and there's a number of ways to do that, I'll get into that in a little bit, but those link signals are an extremely important factor for the local pack. Review signals. I mean, reviews are extremely important beyond just the fact that it's the number three factor on the local pack. The reviews are extremely valuable in that it helps other consumers who see those reviews to decide if that's the business I want to work with or not. So it not only helps with your ranking, but people are making decisions based on these reviews. So there's a very important thing. And also the reviews that you get are going to be helpful for you and your business moving forward. So even if it's a negative review, you can take that review and you can build a better business off of it. So the reviews are very important beyond just this specific kind of ranking factor situation. You have the on-page signals. This is like the traditional SEO stuff. So do you have on your website, are your titles, do the titles of your pages and your homepage, are those, do those include the keywords that you're trying to rank for? Is your name, address, and everything on your website consistent with where your name and address and phone number on other sites? Is there a consistency there? Is your domain authority, are people coming to your site at all? I mean, if the more traffic you get to your site, it suggests that your site is more reputable. So all these on-page signals, this is the traditional kind of SEO stuff. And as you can see, it's the fourth most important factor. It was much higher, which I'll show you in a second, but that's still a very key piece. Citation signals. So this is looking at your business information. So if you do a search for your business, you might have listings out there on sites that you didn't even know about. You maybe didn't even put them up there. And that's because there's all kinds of business data that's being pushed around the internet. And your data could be from this place, from that place, from the other place, and it's all being pushed online. And if you don't manage that stuff, you could have incorrect, because you might have moved locations, you might have done this, you might have done that. You're not going to have correct information online if you don't address those kind of situations. So the citation signals, do you have an accurate and consistent business information and listing information online? Are they on a number of different sites, and is it, like I said, consistent throughout? That's very important for Google. Behavioral signals, this is just looking at how much activity, how much engagement are people having with your business. So this could be clicks to your site, clicks on your search, when your search results show up and your listing is there, clicks on that, mobile clicks, check-ins, all kinds of different things. What are people actually doing in terms of engaging with your presence online? Number 7 factor is personalization. So Google is also personalizing search results based on users. So where they are, what they've searched in the past, what their preferences are, some of their behaviors. So Google's trying to personalize those results to make for a more useful experience online. And then number 8, social signals. So this is whatever's happening on your social channels, which is still important, but it's not a huge influence on the local pack. So anyway, that gives you the sense. So in the local pack, the 3 things: Google My Business, link signals, review signals. Those are the kind of really key pieces to really boost that ranking. And then on the organic side at the bottom, which again is being kind of brought down compared to the other more featured aspects of the search results page. The things that are driving that is the link signals and the on-page signals. So here's the on-page, the traditional SEO. That still is very important, especially in the organic results. And it's brought up to the second most important factor. And then behavioral signals, this is the traffic to your site, clicks, all that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit different how the organic results are ranked versus the local pack. But again, all of these things are very important. But you can see that the link signals in both the organic and the local pack is very important. So links to your site. It's a hard thing to do, but it's a very important kind of tactic to look at. So how have these factors changed over time? In this year, Google My Business is the biggest factor impacting your ranking in the local pack. And when you look at the local pack, it's above the organic results. So you want to rank in the local pack, and you really want to improve that. So number one, it starts with Google My Business. Number two, customer reviews, and number three, links. 2008, it was the local listing information, which was that kind of citations piece. If you look here, citation signals. That was the number one, and that has been kind of moved down the list of priorities. Still very important, extremely important to have consistent and accurate business information online, but it's been kind of brought down a little bit compared to what it was. And then you have the on-page, traditional SEO criteria on-page. That was a huge factor. That's kind of been brought down a little bit as well. Still important, again, but it's been kind of brought not as important as it was. But customer reviews are still in the top three. So I think that's something that's just not going to change. I think reviews are, like I said, they're important for a lot of reasons. Not only for your ranking, but for helping other customers make decisions and also for helping you run your business. So I think that the reviews is a very important piece, and it's remained that way for the last 10 years. So with all of that, there was a lot of kind of information around what's going on with search, how it's changing, what's the data say. Let's look at some specific tactics on how you can address kind of these shifts in consumer behavior and also just how the search results function. I think the first thing that often gets overlooked or isn't really discussed as much when kind of seeing these kind of presentations is doing keyword research. I think a lot of people think they have an understanding of what people are searching for their business to find their business. And maybe a lot of people do, but I think it's often overlooked to do the keyword research. You may be surprised if you find out that, oh, people are actually searching for this type of keyword that is related to my business versus this keyword, which is what I thought. So if you look at the example on the left, the top listing up there says raw dog food. Maybe that's something that if you're a dog, pet supply store or whatever, you're not even thinking about raw food. And that's not even in your wheelhouse of your keywords on your website. You're not making content for that. You're not optimizing your website. You're not putting it into your Google My Business. All of these different things. So if you do it all has to start with keyword research. And you can do keyword research. Google has a keyword planner tool. It's very useful. It's very helpful. It shows you the total amount of searches for the month, how competitive the keyword is in terms of at least advertising, if you were to do some Google search ads. But anyway, the keyword research is very valuable. And then I want to just point out the do-it-yourself difficulty. This is a number based on, in my head, what it would be to do this, not including the time that it takes, not including the research that it would require, just how possible is it for someone to do this themselves, to do keyword research. And I give this a 6 out of 10. It's not extremely difficult, but it's going to require you, finding how to use the keyword planner tool. If you've never used any of these tools before, you're going to have to learn how to do that. It's totally possible for you to do. Again, 6 out of 10. But it all depends. It's all priorities. What are you doing with your day? How are you running your business? What are you busy with most of the time? Do you have time for this kind of stuff? We'll get into more of that in a little bit. But anyway, do some keyword research. This is an extremely important part of any digital marketing strategy, really, because it goes beyond just the search engines. The keywords are a really important function of what consumers, how they look at your business. So this is a very important part, and it's a great place to start. Number 2 is optimizing your Google My Business listing. This sounds pretty straightforward, and really it is, which is why I give it a DIY difficulty of 2 out of 10. You claim your listing. If you haven't already, there's all kinds of resources online to show you how to do that. You can then verify your listing. You can edit all the information in your listing. You can make sure there's articles that'll show you this is how you optimize your listing. You can totally do this one by yourself. And that's why I give this a 2 out of 10. Because yes, you might have to do some searches, do some looking around, but you could totally do this. This is extremely important because this is, like I said, this is the #1 factor to your local pack ranking. So if your Google My Business listing isn't optimized, if it's improperly optimized, or it's just kind of a jumbled mess, or you don't even know who owns it, or whatever the case may be, it's extremely important to make this a priority in what you do, and it's definitely something you can do yourself. So along with, kind of going off of Google My Business still, because your Google My Business listing is, like I said, top for the local pack, adding photos and videos regularly is going to help improve your ranking in that pack, because Google's looking at these Google My Business listings to see who's engaged on their listing, who's actually using it, who's updating it, who's keeping it relevant and timely. And the more active and all that you are with your listing, the more that your Google's going to see, okay, this person's engaged, they're available, they're taking ownership of their business online. So they're going to see that as a positive thing, and it's going to potentially influence your rank. So publishing photos and videos, I give it a 4 out of 10 for difficulty, because really what it takes is getting the photos and then videos, which everyone has a phone, everyone can do this kind of thing. It's not, it might take some time and some thought, sure, but you could totally do it. And then posting it on a regular basis, because you can't just do it once in a while, because that doesn't necessarily mean anything to Google. If you're more consistent and regular, it shows that you're more available and you're ready to kind of engage with consumers. So another kind of, I think, low-hanging fruit for a lot of businesses. And then there's new Google My Business features, specifically posts. This basically is functioning like a social media outlet in terms of posting content. The picture on the left is a sample of a recent thing that I did for a client, but it looks just like a post. You got a picture, some text, and a call to action. It's the same thing you would kind of do with social media. But I give this a little bit more of a difficulty because it takes you time to craft the message, so it's a little bit more involved, but still, again, totally manageable if you had the time to do so. That's really what most of the stuff comes down to, is time. Do you have time to do it? But this is definitely another thing that you should be doing to help improve your rank, because the post, again, is showing Google that you're an active and engaged business owner. Reviews. So we talked about reviews already. They're important. They've been important since 2008. They remain important. They'll continue to be important. And managing your reviews online is going to be a really important factor. And some experts think that this is going to be the most important factor as time goes on. But either way, you're going to want to get more customer reviews, especially on Google. And honestly, it's not too difficult, but it does require some management, some thought, some strategy to really make this kind of come together. But one quick kind of tip: so as you manage your reviews and get more reviews and get better ratings, all this different stuff is going to impact your ranking. And also in your reviews, I think it was like the number 14th overall ranking factor was having keywords in your reviews. So when customers are giving you a review, ask them to put your category or your product or service in the actual review, so that keyword is then kind of triggered within the review. That's actually a specific ranking factor that was number 14 on that list from that study. But one quick tip with managing your reputation: go to your listing. If you have your Google My Business listing, search your business name, find your listing. There's a button that says write a review. When you click it, go to your URL address bar, capture that link, and then if you have a few customers that that are friendly with you and that like your business, send them that link and ask them to give you a review. Say, hey, you've been a loyal customer of ours for a long time. We'd really appreciate it if you give us a good review online. And people, if you're friendly with your customers and you know them and all this, they're going to be more than happy to help you out. But that's just one quick tip, to kind of really, and that's something you could personally email. There's whole other strategies for managing your reputation online, because you're going to need to respond to reviews. You're going to need to keep trying to acquire new reviews, and you're going to kind of keep this kind of funnel going, and you're going to want ongoing management and strategy, but this is a very simple and quick way to kind of get started. Number 6, get consistent, accurate business info into the online ecosystem. So as I mentioned, those citations, which are just basically business listings that are found on the internet. So on the left here is an example. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sites that have listing information for one of our clients. And if you know, that means that that's 5 different sites, and that's not all of them also, there was more, but that's 5 sites where the business information is listed. If any of those are displaying inconsistent or inaccurate business information, that's going to negatively impact our ranking, the business's ranking. So what needs to happen is you need to make sure that you have to manage all these things. So you could do this. The DIY difficulty is a 9 out of 10 because you would have to go through, find all the sites that you're listed, try and get access to all of those listings, try and update and verify those listings. And if you were to do that with all the listings that are out there for your business, it's going to take you forever. It's just, honestly, don't even try to do that because it's just too much. And that's a DIY difficulty. So there are providers that offer this kind of service. Obviously, working with an agency that can kind of help manage this for you is another good way to go. But there's a number of different ways to go about it. But anyway, the important thing to take away here is that if your information is inconsistent or inaccurate on any listings on the web, it's going to hurt your ranking. So this is another key kind of piece for your rank. So earning links on reputable sites. This goes to the link kind of link signals factor, which was a very important factor on both the local pack and the organic results. It's hard to do though, and a lot of times it's going to require maybe some sponsorship dollars. So, for instance, sponsoring a local charity where you, in exchange for your sponsorship, you're listed on a list of sponsors, a sponsors page or a partners page for that charity. That kind of stuff is going to help improve your link. At the same time, you're supporting a local organization that's doing good things for your community. So it's kind of a good thing. I mean, if you're going to spend sponsorship dollars, that's not a bad way to go about it, because you're helping the community, but you're helping your business by getting a good positive link signal from that kind of organization. There's a lot of ways to go about this, and that's just one way to sponsor. But there's also like your local news. Maybe they're doing features on local businesses that are impacting the community. Whatever. There's all kinds of different ways. But there's some research that you can do. But again, this is probably a more difficult thing to take on. It's totally possible. Again, none of the things that I'm talking about either can't be done. It's going to take a lot of time, or it's going to be very involved, or you're going to have to learn a whole bunch of stuff that maybe you don't even care to learn about. But anyway, this is just one of those tactics where you can kind of earn some links to your site by sponsoring organizations. This is kind of, optimize your website for search engines. This is the on-page or the traditional kind of SEO stuff. So this is something that, has remained an important piece, not the most important piece, but it's definitely still an important piece, especially for the organic results. And this is just a matter of making sure your code, some things in your code, there's meta tags, there's title tags, keyword tags, all kinds of different stuff that you want to make sure is optimized for the keywords that you want to rank for. Again, if you can get into your code, if you can, get in and know how to navigate it, this is not too difficult. But if you have no sense of where your code is, or even where your website is hosted, or any of these things, then it's going to be really hard to do. But still, you could teach yourself, you could get into the code, you could do all these things. It's just, again, it's going to take a ton of time if you're totally unfamiliar. This is probably the hardest thing, I think, from what I see for brands to do, and that's developing authentic content that your audience will value. And the reason content is important is because if you're creating content that's highly engaged with and is interesting and adds value to the lives of your audience, that content will be shared. As that content gets shared, you drive more traffic to your site, you drive more traffic to the channels that you're sharing it on, you're getting more interest and engagement overall online because you have very valuable content. That's the ideal kind of way it would work. But the truth is, providing content is very difficult to do. because you have to, one, have a very strong sense, which as most business owners do, have a very strong sense of who your audience is, what they care about, and what they're looking for. With that understanding, then you have to go from, okay, so now that I know this about my audience, let's make a list of all the content that would align with those interests and those needs. So there's a lot of abstract thinking that takes place in order to connect all the dots to develop this kind of content. But the idea of authenticity, I think, is something that's really missing from the internet overall. A lot of brands go out there and they say, buy this thing, here's this thing, we're just presenting some sort of version of ourselves that we want, you to believe in or whatever. And it seems very inauthentic. And I think people are very smart to that. I think the idea of being authentic, as an example, we posted for a client of mine who runs a dental office, we posted just some pictures of the staff on their Facebook page. That, for the last, I don't know how many years they've had their page, but we just got started working with them, but for the last maybe like 3 years, this was the most engaged with piece of content that they've had for 3 years. And it was just a series of pictures of the staff. And it's because it's authentic, because people react and respond well to authenticity. And again, like I said, when it's so absent from the internet a lot of times, when people see it, they recognize it and they really appreciate and value it. So authenticity is a very important piece of ranking, because like I said, when you have content that's valuable and it's authentic and people engage with it, they click it, they share it, they do all these things, you're giving signals to Google that you're a reputable organization that people are engaged with. So that's going to help improve your ranking. So this is a very important one. It's a very difficult one, and I know I spent a lot of time on it, but it's because I think it's a really, really important piece that a lot of businesses miss, is that authenticity. But either way, this is a very important strategy for your ranking as well. So that's the 9 kind of factors that I wanted to get into. And I know I kind of went through a lot of them, and I could discuss all of those on one webinar at a time, but this is just to get you started, some ideas. But here's 3 other ranking tips for your website specifically. I think it was 2015, Google started to negatively impact sites that were not mobile friendly. And the way you can tell if your site is mobile friendly, go to your site on your phone, do you have to pinch and zoom in and scroll and move around like that? Then it's probably not mobile friendly. If it works perfect and you just scroll up and down, then you probably have a good site. But either way, if your site isn't mobile friendly, you're not going to rank as well on mobile results. Number 2, make sure your site is secure with an SSL certificate. So if at the front of your website it still says HTTP, your website doesn't have its SSL certificate, and therefore is seen by Google as not as secure as other sites that do have it. So you want to make sure that your site has HTTPS before your URL. And if it does, then great. And if it doesn't, and you have a provider for your site, make sure you ask them to do that, because it's a quick, simple, easy way to do it. I know some hosting providers charge for that and some don't. So it all depends on where your site is hosted and things like that, but definitely an important piece for your ranking. Number 3, make sure your pages load quickly. So speed is, especially on mobile, again, as consumers increasingly go to mobile to do their searches, speed is going to be important. So when they do a search, you're going to want to make sure that your pages don't have a ton of images or really high resolution images or videos that are just going to bog that down and slow the process down for that page to load. People are going to wait for a second, 2 seconds, and then they're just going to leave and go to a different site if your site isn't working or it's really slow. So speed is extremely important. Those 3 things, and and the faster it is, the better it'll rank as well, and the more engagement you'll get. So those are 3 bonus tips just for your website. Fairly easy. The mobile friendly one isn't easy. If you have a non-mobile friendly site, you're going to need to redo your site. It's just the fact of the matter. And also, beyond the ranking influence that a mobile friendly site has, the user experience. If you want people to come to your site via mobile, whatever, you're going to want to provide an experience that's valuable, or that's just simple, streamlined, and everything like that. So those are 3 kind of things that you really need to look at and make sure that you have. Now, I gave kind of a score for DIY, and like I said, I don't think any of this stuff is outside of the realm of possibility. That's why none of it's a 20 out of 10. You know, like it's all within the range. Even if it's 10 out of 10, it's still possible. The fact is, you have to have an interest in this stuff. You have to have time to dedicate to it, and you have to be able to learn on the fly as things are changing. Because like I said, this, you know, when I talked to earlier about the no-click search queries, when people aren't, that's a whole shift in how now we look at search engine optimization, and we have to transform, you know, our thinking as consumer behavior transforms. So if it comes to doing it yourself, are you willing to be on top of all of these different trends and changes? Do you have a general interest in digital marketing? Do you have 5 to 10 hours a week to spare? Most businesses will say absolutely not, because I mean, the reality is running their business is very difficult, takes a lot of time. There's so many things to do. Is digital marketing one of those things? Probably not, but if you want to grow, it's going to have to be. Do you know how to use various digital platforms? So like I said, there's all kinds, there's ranking on Google, there's also Facebook, which has a whole host of other kind of user interfaces and ways to do things and all that need to be considered. Are you familiar with best practices? Like I said, things are changing, so the best practices are changing. Do you know where to go to learn about digital marketing? So if you are going to do it yourself and you are going to teach yourself, where do you go to get that information? So that's going to be a whole one kind of thing to kind of look at as well. And then understanding the code, because again, you got to get into the code in order to adjust some of that stuff. But anyway, all of these questions aren't meant to scare anybody. It's just, you know, when you think about doing it yourself, it's totally fine if that's what you're looking at. And if you have a budget, if you don't have a budget for this kind of stuff, then that's great. But it's just going to be, you're going to only be able to probably get to a certain amount of things in a given week because you're running a business, and that's just the nature of it. So just some things to consider as you DIY. I think at the very least, you could do these 3 things. You could optimize your Google My Business listing. You could regularly upload photos, videos to your Google My Business. And you could use some of the new Google My Business features like posts. I think those 3 things are totally doable. And, you know, I think you'll find it to be because honestly, the Google My Business experience is pretty intuitive. It's pretty easy to do. And I think you'll find that to be something that's not so cumbersome right out the gate. Even if you have no familiarity with some of the stuff, I think that you'll find this to be a feasible task, those 3 things. So if this all seems like too much and there's no way you're going to be able to do it, but you really want to, and you maybe have a little budget to bring to it, this is what kind of my perspective on working with an agency. At the low end, I would be prepared to spend $500 to $2,500 a month. And the reason for that is because, as I mentioned, you know, they're used to on-page traditional SEO stuff where you're optimizing your code and your title tags and all that stuff. That used to be the top, you know, ranking factor. So if you just wanted SEO, just that, today you could probably get that for, you know, $100 to $200 a month. You know, that kind of service for every page, for all the new pages, for ongoing management, just for the on-page. But since SEO is a factor of many different things, it's your reviews, it's your on-page signals, it's your link signals, it's your content, it's your social media, it's the traffic you're driving to your site, it's all these different factors. You can't just do the on-page stuff and expect your ranking to improve. For that reason, you know, when you are going to work with an agency, expect to pay, you know, like I said, at the starting point of about $500, because you're going to need multiple services to really impact your ranking. It's not going to just be this one service that's going to fix your ranking or really grow it. And that's kind of what the second bullet point is saying here. It's SEO is multifaceted: website reviews, GMB, all these different factors. So you have to invest in multiple services. It's better to work with agencies, you know, in my opinion, it's better to work with agencies that offer a full suite. I think that that's because it gives that agency an ability to test new strategies and tactics that can then be applied across the digital ecosystem. And at the same time, it's better for you because it's one person to work with. The more people you add on to your business, like I'm going to work with this guy and then this, you know, woman over here, and then I'm going to work over here with this person. As you keep adding people, it's just going to make it more management for you. It's going to take up more of your time than, you know, if you just hire, you know, one person and kind of give that agency some autonomy to kind of to do this stuff. because the reality is it's up to the agency to be an expert on the topic. So you don't have to be. But I would try and find agencies that can offer the full suite of these kind of key services. I would ask if you have, when you get access to this recording, ask the agency if these tactics are included in the rate. Because these are important tactics, I think, for any business that's looking to kind of improve that ranking. And also, I wouldn't expect results right away. If you do hire an agency, or even if you're doing it yourself, don't expect these things to kind of improve right away. I say give it at least a year. Some people say that you won't start seeing results if you really kind of transform your SEO strategy until like maybe 3 months. But I would give it a full year to see, really what did work, what didn't work, how it's changing, what's evolving. And I think that that's going to give you a better sense of just how good the agency actually is. And then I would say, this is just kind of a transparency thing. Make sure it's very clear what you're paying for. If you're not given a very clear set of, you get this service and this service and this service and this service costs this much and this service costs, if you're not getting that, then it's just, you're not going to really know what's going on. So you're going to want to be, it's going to need to be made very clear, and you're going to need to ask, sometimes you'll have to ask for that if they're not kind of upfront about what they're providing for you. But those are just some general tips for working with an agency.
Okay, that wraps up the questions. So thanks a lot, Joe, for conducting the webinar, and thanks to everyone that attended. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to Joe, or you can reach out to info@marketingbitz.com too. And thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.